It is common practice for contractors to have a minimum charge for returning to a job to make changes or perform additional work. This minimum charge covers several costs: firstly, travel time and expenses; secondly, administrative overhead, which includes scheduling and coordination; and thirdly, setup and cleanup time. A $200 minimum charge may seem high, but it is often within industry norms. Consider the following breakdown. $120 may be attributed to travel, setup, and cleanup, while $80 covers administrative overhead. When addressing general contractor concerns, it's important to clearly explain your costs. State that your minimum charge covers the actual costs of returning to the job. Discuss the possibility of a lower minimum charge, especially for small or quick tasks. Provide alternative solutions, such as a discount on additional openings or a separate trip charge plus an hourly rate. Remind the general contractor that you are providing a valuable service by correcting the work to meet code requirements. You are justified in charging a minimum fee of $200 for returning to the job. Charging only for the openings and a small trip charge would likely result in a loss. It is unfair to expect you to subsidize the additional work. Most contractors agree that a minimum charge for return visits is reasonable. Many contractors have a minimum for return calls, regardless of the scope of work. Some charge a minimum for service calls, even if it's just a short amount of work. Minimum charges help justify travel expenses and protect profitability. It is important to stand your ground and maintain your minimum charge policy. While the general contractor may be resistant initially, they will likely understand the reasoning behind it. By being assertive and transparent about your costs, you can establish a fair and mutually beneficial relationship. Here are additional details to consider when implementing and explaining your minimum charge policy. When calculating your minimum charge, factor in all direct and indirect costs associated with a return visit. Direct costs include fuel, vehicle wear and tear, and any materials needed for the additional work. Indirect costs encompass administrative time, insurance, and potential lost revenue from other jobs you could be doing. Be prepared to break down your minimum charge for the general contractor. Show them how each component contributes to the total cost. Transparency builds trust and demonstrates that your pricing is fair. Explore different pricing models for return visits. In addition to a flat minimum charge, consider offering options like a trip charge plus an hourly rate or a minimum charge that applies only if the additional work takes longer than a specified time. Tailoring your pricing to the specific situation can make it more palatable for the general contractor. Offer a tiered minimum charge based on the distance to the job site. Jobs further away incur higher travel costs, justifying a higher minimum charge. This can be particularly useful if you serve a wide geographic area. Negotiate the minimum charge upfront during the initial contract negotiation. Clearly state your policy regarding return visits and minimum charges in the contract to avoid misunderstandings later. If the general contractor is unwilling to accept your minimum charge policy, be prepared to walk away from the job. It's better to lose one job than to set a precedent that undermines your profitability. Document all communication with the general contractor regarding the additional work and minimum charge. This includes emails, phone calls, and in-person discussions. Written records can be helpful if disputes arise. Maintain a consistent minimum charge policy across all jobs. Applying the policy fairly to all customers reinforces its legitimacy and prevents accusations of favoritism. Educate your employees about the minimum charge policy and empower them to explain it to customers. Ensure they understand the reasoning behind the policy and can confidently address any questions or concerns. Provide exceptional service in the initial job to minimize the likelihood of return visits. Thoroughness and attention to detail can prevent errors that lead to additional work. Build strong relationships with general contractors based on trust and mutual respect. Open communication and a willingness to compromise can help resolve pricing disputes and maintain long-term partnerships. Consider offering a discount on the minimum charge for repeat customers or those who consistently provide you with a high volume of work. Loyalty programs can incentivize general contractors to continue using your services. If the additional work is due to an error on your part, consider waiving the minimum charge as a gesture of goodwill. Taking responsibility for mistakes can strengthen customer relationships and prevent negative reviews. Request feedback from general contractors on your pricing and service. Use their input to refine your minimum charge policy and improve your overall business practices. Stay informed about industry trends and best practices regarding pricing and minimum charges. Attend industry events, read trade publications, and network with other contractors to stay ahead of the curve. Be willing to adapt your minimum charge policy as needed to reflect changes in your costs, market conditions, and customer expectations. Flexibility is essential for long-term success. By carefully considering these factors and implementing a well-defined minimum charge policy, you can protect your profitability, maintain fair pricing, and build strong relationships with general contractors. Remember that communication, transparency, and a willingness to negotiate are key to resolving pricing disputes and ensuring mutual satisfaction. The primary aim is to establish a sustainable business model that recognizes the value of your time, expertise, and the costs associated with providing your services. Now, let's delve deeper into the specific cost components that contribute to a contractor's minimum charge for return visits. Firstly, consider travel costs, which encompass more than just the price of fuel. Vehicle depreciation, maintenance, and insurance are significant expenses that need to be factored into the equation. The wear and tear on your vehicle from frequent trips to job sites can lead to costly repairs down the line. Secondly, administrative overhead is often underestimated. Scheduling, coordinating with the general contractor, preparing invoices, and managing paperwork all consume valuable time. This time could be spent on other revenue-generating activities. Thirdly, setup and cleanup time is crucial. Even seemingly small tasks require time to gather tools, set up equipment, and clean up the work area afterward. This non-billable time adds to the overall cost of the return visit. Furthermore, consider the opportunity cost of returning to a job. The time spent on the return visit could be used to pursue new business opportunities or complete other projects. This lost potential revenue should be factored into your pricing decisions. Also, remember to account for the cost of materials. Even if the additional work requires only a few small parts, these materials need to be purchased and transported to the job site. Don't forget to include a reasonable profit margin in your minimum charge. Your business needs to be profitable to remain sustainable. A fair profit margin ensures that you can cover your expenses, invest in your business, and provide a comfortable living for yourself and your employees. When explaining your costs to the general contractor, use clear and concise language. Avoid technical jargon and focus on the practical implications of each cost component. Provide concrete examples to illustrate how your minimum charge covers your actual expenses. For example, you could say the $120 travel fee covers the cost of fuel, vehicle maintenance, and insurance for the round trip to the job site. Or the $80 administrative fee covers the time spent scheduling, coordinating with you, and preparing the invoice. Be prepared to answer questions and address any concerns the general contractor may have. Listen actively to their perspective and be willing to compromise if possible. However, don't compromise your profitability. Know your bottom line and be prepared to walk away from the job if the general contractor is unwilling to meet your minimum charge. Document all communication with the general contractor in writing. This includes emails, letters, and meeting notes. Written documentation can be helpful if disputes arise later on. Seek legal advice if you encounter persistent payment issues or contractual disputes. A lawyer can help you understand your rights and obligations and protect your business interests. Consider joining a trade association or professional organization. These groups often provide resources and support for contractors, including guidance on pricing and business practices. Network with other contractors and share best practices. Learning from the experiences of others can help you improve your own business operations. Continuously evaluate and refine your minimum charge policy. Track your costs, monitor your profitability, and solicit feedback from customers. Use this information to make adjustments to your pricing and business practices as needed. Remember that pricing is an ongoing process, not a one-time decision. By carefully considering your costs, communicating effectively with customers, and continuously improving your business practices, you can establish a sustainable and profitable contracting business. Finally, let's consider some real-world examples of how contractors handle minimum charges for return visits. A residential electrician might charge a $150 minimum for any service call, regardless of the amount of work required. This covers their travel time, administrative costs, and the cost of keeping their truck stocked with essential parts. A commercial HVAC technician might charge a $250 minimum for a return visit to repair a malfunctioning air conditioner. This higher minimum reflects the specialized skills and equipment required for commercial HVAC work. A plumbing contractor might charge a $100 trip charge plus an hourly rate for any return visit. This allows them to bill for the actual time spent on the job while still covering their basic travel costs. A landscaping contractor might charge a $50 minimum for a return visit to address minor issues such as adjusting sprinkler heads or weeding flower beds. This lower minimum reflects the lower skill level and equipment requirements of landscaping work. A painting contractor might charge a $200 minimum for a return visit to touch up areas where the paint has chipped or faded. This minimum covers the cost of materials, travel time, and the time spent preparing the surface for painting. These examples illustrate the wide range of pricing strategies used by contractors in different industries. The specific minimum charge that is appropriate for your business will depend on your costs, your skill level, your market conditions, and your customer expectations. The key is to find a pricing strategy that is fair to both you and your customers while still allowing you to run a profitable business. In conclusion, establishing a well-defined minimum charge policy for return visits is crucial for the financial health and sustainability of any contracting business. By carefully considering all relevant cost factors, communicating transparently with customers, and continuously refining your pricing strategies, you can ensure that you are fairly compensated for your time, expertise, and the value you provide.